The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Its fleets stretched across 100 worlds, its armies crushed rebellion after rebellion, and its name brought silence to every corner of known space. When the High Emperor's banners appeared in the sky, civilizations kneeled without question. But this time, they had come across something unexpected. Their long-range scouts had discovered a small blue planet at the edge of an unremarkable star system, Sol. At first, the Empire's analysts believed it was just another primitive world, a backwater planet still learning how to control fire and machines. But strange energy readings had been detected in the system. Advanced technology, fast-moving signals, and strange radio frequencies that didn't match any known galactic pattern. The Emperor wanted answers. So, the First Imperial Conquest Fleet, under the command of High Admiral Vrax Tor, set course for the Sol system. Their mission was simple: contact the species known as humans, and if they refused to submit, erase them from existence. From his command deck aboard the flagship Dominion's Wrath, Vrax Tor stared out at the holographic display. Before him stretched the blackness of deep space, stars glittering like scattered diamonds. Around his ship floated more than 500 Imperial warships, each the size of a small moon. Their hulls gleamed silver and gold under the faint light of distant suns. To Vrax Tor, this was just another mission. He had conquered dozens of worlds and burned twice as many. He expected no challenge. Report, his deep voice rumbled. A young officer bowed slightly. High Admiral, the Sol system lies ahead. We have detected several artificial satellites orbiting the third planet, and a small fleet of local vessels near the gas giant known as Jupiter. Local vessels? Vrax Tor chuckled. Let me see them. The main display shimmered, revealing the image of metallic gray ships hovering in the orbit of Jupiter. They were nothing compared to the might of the Empire. Smaller, less ornamented. No grand symbols, no shimmering banners. They looked simple, almost plain. These are the humans? The Admiral asked, amused. Yes, High Admiral? The officer replied. Their fleet consists of less than 20 vessels. No visible planetary defense platforms detected. Energy signatures are unusually low. Vrax Tor smirked. Then this will be quick. Open a communication channel. Across the vast emptiness between stars, signals bounced between the fleets. For a long moment there was only static. Then a voice, a calm, clear, and distinctly human, filled the Imperial command deck. This is Admiral Reyes of the United Terran Fleet. Identify yourselves. Vrax Tor straightened, intrigued by the tone. The human voice didn't sound frightened. It sounded steady. I am High Admiral Vrax Tor of the Galactic Empire, he declared proudly. By order of the Emperor, I demand your surrender. Your world and its resources now belong to the Empire. Resist and you will be destroyed. The response came after a pause, but not the kind of pause born of fear. It was the kind of pause made by someone holding back a laugh. Acknowledged, the human replied simply. Proceed if you wish. And then the transmission ended. For a few seconds, the Imperial bridge fell silent. Vrax Tor blinked, his scales tightening with confusion. Did they just dismiss my command? Yes, High Admiral, said his aide nervously. They did. Laughter rippled through the Imperial officers. Some whispered that the humans were foolish. Others thought the message must have been mistranslated. But the translation systems were flawless. The humans had meant every word. Vrax Tor leaned back in his chair, a wide grin forming on his face. So the little creatures have courage. Good. It will make their defeat more entertaining. He raised his hand. Prepare the fleet for demonstration fire. Let them see what true power looks like. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Vanguard, the flagship of the United Terran Fleet, Admiral Elias Reyes stood quietly at the center of his bridge. Through the massive viewport, the Imperial fleet looked like a field of stars, beautiful and terrifying. His officers worked calmly around him, monitoring every movement, every power surge, every signal. Status report, Reyes said softly. Admiral, replied Commander Liu, his second in command. All ships are in formation. Quantum shield stable. Singularity reactors at 60%. Awaiting your command, Reyes nodded. He could sense the tension in the room, not fear, but focus. His crew knew what was coming. The Galactic Empire had arrived, and humanity for the first time would reveal what it had truly become. The Admiral smiled faintly. So they've declared war. Yes, sir, Liu replied. and they don't seem to realize what we're capable of. That's fine, Reyes said. Let's keep it that way. The Empire's armada continued its slow advance. Hundreds of ships glided toward the human line, forming a massive wedge-shaped formation. Their weapons began to charge, glowing with energy bright enough to outshine the nearby moons. To the Imperials, it was a glorious sight, power and order, ready to crush chaos. To the humans, it was a challenge they had been waiting for. Inside the Vanguard, tension built like static electricity. Crew members whispered softly, double-checking readings. The ship's AI announced, enemy weapons charging. Impact predicted in 71 seconds. Reyes remained motionless. He looked at the holographic projection of the Empire's fleet. Vast, unstoppable, ancient. And yet he felt no fear. Let them fire first, he said calmly. In the Imperial flagship, Vraxtor grinned as he watched the enemy fleet remain still. They're not even trying to move, he said, almost laughing. Arrogant fools. Hi, Admiral, should we proceed with the opening salvo? Yes, Vraxtor commanded. Begin the demonstration. Fire at will. The order spread through the armada. Thousands of cannons charged simultaneously. Energy cores ignited, filling space with streaks of burning light, beams of plasma, missiles of molten metal, and bursts of antimatter surged forward like a storm of fire. Imperial Bridge erupted in cheers as the weapons crossed the void toward the human ships. Admiral Reyes stood, silent as the storm of destruction approached. Even from light years away, it was a sight to behold. Energy so bright it looked like the heavens themselves were breaking apart. But his expression didn't change. Distance to impact? He asked quietly. 20 kilometers, Admiral. 10. 5. And then it happened. Every beam, every blast, every missile vanished, not exploded, not deflected, simply gone. The space around the human fleet shimmered for a moment like a heat mirage, and then returned to perfect calm. The crew of the Vanguard watched their screens in silence. Commander Liu finally broke it. Admiral, the null fields held. No damage detected. Reyes exhaled slowly, a small chuckle escaping his lips. Of course they did, he said. The Empire believes power means brightness and noise. They have forgotten that silence can be deadlier. On the Imperial flagship, chaos erupted. Hi, Admiral, shouted an officer. Our weapons, they just disappeared. Sensors show no hits, no explosions. What? Vraxtor barked. That's impossible. Check again. We have checked 5 times, sir. Every shot was neutralized before reaching the target. It's like the energy just stopped existing. The High Admiral's confident grin faded. He stared at the human ships on the screen, still unmoving, still calm. Were they mocking him? Then, to his shock, one of the human ships sent a transmission. A single short message. Your move, Admiral. Vraxtor's scales darkened in anger. His claws clenched. So that was it. The humans were playing games, mocking the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. He leaned forward, his eyes glowing with fury. Very well, humans, he growled. If you wish to test the Empire's might, then you shall have it. He raised his arm, pointing at the holographic image of the Terran fleet. All ships in full assault. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the Imperial Armada began to charge again. The air aboard the Dominion's Wrath buzzed with power. Vraxtor smiled grimly. Let's see how long they can laugh. But far away aboard the Vanguard, Admiral Reyes and his crew simply watched, calm, composed, and confident. A quiet ripple of laughter passed through the bridge crew, a soft sound under the hum of machinery. They were ready, and humanity was done hiding. The void between Jupiter and the Empire's armada shimmered with tension. On one side stood the Galactic Empire, a civilization that had conquered half the galaxy, confident in its power and its unbroken history of victory. On the other side waited a smaller fleet, silent, motionless, and human. The Empire had fired its first strike, and failed. Now every eye in the Imperial command deck turned toward High Admiral Vraxtor, waiting for his command. Vraxtor's claws drummed on the metal table before him. The echo filled the bridge of his flagship, Dominion's Wrath. He had expected the battle to end with one volley. Instead, his fleet's entire barrage had vanished like water into sand. No explosions. No resistance. No trace. His voice was low and sharp. Report. I want an explanation. A frightened science officer spoke up. High Admiral, our sensors confirm that all energy from our weapons simply ceased to exist when it reached their ships. It is not a shield. It is not reflection. It's like what? Vraxtor interrupted. The officer hesitated, like the energy was erased from the universe. Vraxtor growled, his golden eyes narrowing. Erased? That is impossible. Nothing can erase energy. The officer nodded nervously. Yes, sir. And yet the humans just did. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Vanguard, the crew of the United Terran Fleet observed the Imperial ships preparing for another assault. The humans had expected this reaction. Their scanners showed power levels climbing again in the Empire's fleet, reactors charging at maximum output. Thousands of bright energy signatures appeared across the dark void, ready to strike again. Inside the bridge, Admiral Elias Reyes stood with his hands behind his back, his expression calm and steady. He had seen many battles, but this one was different. Humanity wasn't fighting for territory or pride. This was their first true meeting with the galaxy, and their chance to show what they had become. Commander Liu, Reyes said, glancing at his second-in-command. How's the field holding? Stable, Admiral, Liu replied. Null field arrays are running at 42% efficiency. Singularity reactors at 65. No overheating. Shields are steady. Good, Reyes nodded. Let's keep it that way. Liu smiled faintly. Sir, they're preparing another attack. I think they're angry. Reyes chuckled softly. Let them be. Anger leads to mistakes, and we'll make sure they pay for everyone. The humans had been underestimated for centuries. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth was a forgotten corner of space, a young species not worth noticing. But humanity had evolved fast. Their minds, once bound by gravity and limits, had broken those barriers long ago. Their technology was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The null field arrays were the first of their kind, invisible spheres that could absorb and dissolve energy no matter how strong. They didn't block attacks. They simply made them not exist. The Empire's plasma, antimatter, and fusion beams were all meaningless against this quiet wall of nothingness. And yet, Admiral Reyes hadn't attacked back. Not yet. He wanted the Empire to reveal everything and every weapon, every formation, every desperate move, before humanity's counterstrike began. Inside the Imperial flagship, confusion was turning into frustration. Vraxtor had never faced an enemy that didn't crumble under his fleet's might. High Admiral, said a communications officer, the human fleet remains stationary. They are not advancing or retreating. They are mocking us, Vraxtor hissed. Send another message. Moments later, his image appeared as a hologram on the Vanguard's bridge. A towering alien with silver-scaled skin and sharp, golden eyes. Humans, Vraxtor thundered. You have shown defiance against the Emperor. You have used forbidden technology to resist our will. This is your last chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons and submit, or your world will burn. For a moment, silence filled the bridge. Then Admiral Reyes smiled. High Admiral Vraxtor, he said politely, we appreciate your concern. But if you want our world, you'll have to earn it. Behind Reyes, a few officers laughed softly. It wasn't mocking, and it was calm, confident amusement. Vraxtor's nostrils flared. You dare to laugh at the Empire? No, Reyes said, his eyes firm. We just know something you don't. The hologram faded before the alien could respond. Back on the Dominion's wrath, Vraxtor slammed his clawed hand against the control table. Enough of this. Prepare for full assault formation. Hundreds of ships began to move. The Imperial Armada formed a ring around the human fleet, tightening their circle. Battleships, dreadnoughts, and cruisers aligned their weapons. High Admiral, all units report ready, said a tactical officer. Shall we begin the second barrage? Vraxtor took a deep breath, his anger fading into a focused calm. Yes, but not just plasma this time. Use everything. If their shield stops energy, overwhelm it. The Empire unleashed the storm. From the human fleet's perspective, space lit up again, brighter and more furious than before. Every type of weapon known to the Empire filled the void. Plasma beams cut through the dark. Missiles screamed across the stars, and hyperpulse cannons shattered the silence of space. The humans watched in awe, not fear. The Vanguard's AI reported, multiple energy spikes detected. Null field impact in 10 seconds. Hold position, Admiral Reyes said. The bridge lights flickered as the storm reached them, A flash, a roar, and then nothing. Every Imperial weapon vanished again. The human ships remained untouched, floating like calm shadows in a sea of light. A ripple of laughter passed through the Terran bridge. Commander Liu leaned toward Reyes. "Sir, I think they're starting to panic," Reyes smiled slightly. "Good, let them. Fear makes even the strongest empire weak." The Imperial command deck fell into chaos. "Hi, Admiral." Second volley, gone. All readings show 0 impact again. Vraxtor turned to his science team. "Explain this. What technology can nullify energy?" One of the alien engineers trembled. "Admiral, whatever they are using, it is beyond our understanding. It doesn't reflect, it doesn't absorb. It removes energy from existence. Then we will crush them physically," Vraxtor barked. "Prepare ramming units. Deploy assault carriers. I want their ships torn apart piece by piece." Back on the Vanguard, Admiral Reyes received the report. "Sir, they're changing formation," Liu said. "Looks like they're preparing for close combat." Reyes nodded slowly. "Predictable. They can't win at range, so they'll try brute force." He turned toward the holographic map, watching the red dots of Imperial ships close in. "Commander, inform all Terran vessels to hold fire." "Not yet, let them come closer." Liu raised an eyebrow. "How close?" Reyes smirked. "Close enough to see what real technology looks like." As the Imperial fleet advanced, tension grew across both sides. The humans waited silently, every ship ready, but still. The aliens roared through space, confident that this time, no strange field could stop them. The distance closed. 10,000 kilometers, then 5,000, then 1,000. Inside the Dominion's wrath, Vraxtor stood tall, watching the blue planet far in the distance. "Soon," he whispered, "soon they will know what happens to those who mock the Empire." But aboard the Vanguard, Admiral Reyes gave a simple order. "Activate secondary systems," he said. The bridge lights dimmed. The view outside shimmered. Invisible waves pulsed outward from the Terran ships, not visible to the eye, but powerful enough to distort space itself. The approaching Imperial vessels began to slow, not because they wanted to, but because space around them was changing. Their engines struggled. Their sensors failed. Distances twisted and folded like reflections on water. "What's happening?" shouted one of Vraxtor's officers. "Our systems can't track the enemy." "They're everywhere." The human fleet was no longer stationary. It was moving without moving. Each ship appeared in multiple places at once, as if reality itself couldn't decide where they were. On the Vanguard's bridge, Commander Liu stared in awe. "Admiral, the spatial distortion field is working perfectly. They can't aim at us," Reyes gave a calm nod. "Good, keep it active. We don't fire until I say so." He looked at the display of the Imperial fleet, huge, majestic, and blind. "They wanted to show us power," he murmured. "Now we'll show them precision." The crew around him exchanged quiet, confident smiles. Some even chuckled again, amused by how easily the most powerful empire in the galaxy was being played with. In the darkness of space, the stage was set. The Galactic Empire's greatest armada surrounded, a small fleet of human ships, and yet it was the Empire that trembled. The next move would not be the Empire's, it would belong to humanity. And when Admiral Reyes gave that order, the galaxy itself would learn why humans chuckle before the storm. The void of space was alive with tension, but silence ruled in the human fleet. For miles around Jupiter, United Terran fleet ships floated like dark shadows, their hulls sleek and unassuming. They had seen the Imperial fleet's massive energy display. They had seen the Empire's fury, its arrogance, and its raw power, and still, they did not move. On the bridge of the USS Vanguard, Admiral Elias Reyes stood quietly. His eyes reflected the stars and the immense red shapes of the Imperial fleet. Beside him, Commander Liu tapped her fingers on the console. "Sir, their weapons are fully charged again. They've doubled the energy output this time. This is not a warning. They intend to destroy us." Reyes nodded slowly. "Yes, let them try. That is exactly what we want." Across the void, High Admiral Vraxtor of the Galactic Empire watched the human ships with growing frustration. From his perspective, these vessels were mere toys, insignificant and fragile. Yet they had survived 2 volleys of destruction that would have obliterated any other species. The Imperials had anticipated resistance, but not this. Not the calm, unshakable defiance of a species that laughed in the face of annihilation. "Prepare the main batteries," Vraxtor commanded, his claws tapping rhythmically on the control table. "Fire everything. Plasma, antimatter, fusion. Combine all firepower into a single strike. This time nothing survives." All across the Imperial fleet, warning lights blinked. Energy cores surged. The space between the fleets began to glow with immense heat. Beams of energy twisted in complex patterns. Missiles streaked across the void, trailing fire and plasma. The Galactic Empire was firing like never before. On the Vanguard, the human crew felt the rumble in space, not through sound, but through sensors. The null field arrays hummed softly, a quiet promise of protection. The AI reported every trajectory. Imperial fleet firing. Estimated time to impact, 25 seconds. "Hold steady," Reyes said. "Remember, we let them waste their strength." Seconds passed. 10, 5. Then the storm arrived. The Imperial barrage struck, a dazzling, terrifying torrent of light. Plasma ribbons tore through space. Beams of antimatter lanced outward. Explosions ignited in the distance as small moons glowed red under the fire. To any other species, this would have been the end. But the humans did not flinch. The null field arrays activated in perfect harmony. The first plasma ribbons touched the invisible shields and instantly disappeared. No sparks, no heat, no damage. Next came antimatter beams, and they too vanished into nothingness, leaving the human ships untouched. The massive Imperial energy strike, the pride of 1,000 generations, simply ceased to exist. A ripple of laughter ran through the Vanguard's bridge crew. Not mocking, not arrogant, calm, confident amusement. Commander Liu leaned forward. "Sir, it worked perfectly." "They don't know how to fight us," Reyes nodded. "Good. Let's see how they react." Across the void, the Imperial fleet's sensors failed. Every weapon they fired vanished before it reached the human line. Beams faded into silence. Explosions never happened. Missiles disappeared mid-flight. The alien officers shouted in confusion. "Hi, Admiral." "The weapons. Nothing is hitting them." Vraxtor's claws clenched. "Impossible." "They are cheating." "No, sir," said one of his science officers. "It is not cheating. Their technology simply removes energy from existence. Nothing we know can stop it. Nothing we know can even measure it." Vraxtor's jaw tightened. He had faced impossible odds before. He had crushed rebels, warlords, and entire civilizations. But this was new. The humans were not just surviving. They were untouchable. The silence of the human fleet was deafening. And then a single signal appeared. A short, precise message transmitted to every Imperial ship. "Your fire has no effect. Proceed at your own risk." Vraxtor's golden eyes blazed with fury. He roared, shaking the command deck with the sound of his anger. "They dare mock me. They dare defy the Empire." In the Vanguard, Admiral Reyes observed the Imperial fleet moving again. They were reorganizing, preparing another strike, trying to figure out a way past the null fields. Every ship's AI confirmed what Reyes already knew. The humans were untouchable, for now. "Sir," Liu said quietly, "they are starting to panic. They are reorganizing, but their energy is unstable. If they overcharge, their weapons may fail entirely." Reyes's lips curved into a small smile. "Let them overreach. That will make our job easier." The Imperial fleet's next attack was calculated, precise, and immense. Hundreds of ships combined their energy, creating beams brighter than the largest stars in the system. Missiles moved in perfect coordination, cutting the void like silver knives. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath, and then, once more, nothing happened. Every beam disappeared mid-space. Every missile vanished. Explosions never ignited. The Empire's greatest armada, feared across galaxies, had failed completely. Some officers fell silent, unable to comprehend the failure. Others began to panic, issuing orders that contradicted each other. Vraxtor's voice rang over the chaos. "Do not panic. Recalculate. Aim again. Nothing can survive us." The humans watched, calm and unmoving. They did not need to fire yet. Their counterstrike would come at the perfect moment. The Vanguard's bridge crew leaned over the displays, monitoring every Imperial movement. Each ship's location, every energy output, every speed change, and all calculated with perfect precision. "The Empire is blinded," Reyes said quietly, "and soon they will be destroyed by their own arrogance." Liu glanced at him. "Sir, they're overextending. Their ships are moving closer, trying to overwhelm the fields. Good, Reyes replied. Close enough to see what happens when humans fight back. In the Imperial flagship, Vraxtor's anger reached its peak. How dare they resist? How dare they survive what no one else could? He bellowed. He raised his claw, signaling for the largest ships to charge. Dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, and carriers surged forward, forming a wedge aimed at the human fleet. They believed this time nothing could stop them, and yet the humans simply watched. Admiral Reyes gave a single command: engage Phase 1. The human ships moved, not like conventional fleets. They did not fly forward in a line. They did not fire in arcs. Instead, they seemed to appear everywhere at once. Ships vanished from one position and reappeared behind enemy lines, their energy readings bending space around them. The Imperial officers stared in disbelief. They are everywhere. They've broken space itself. Another cried. And then the humans fired. It was not an explosion. It was not chaos. It was precise, clean, and unstoppable. Beams of concentrated energy struck Imperial vessels. Hulls vaporized, shields failed, and massive ships disintegrated into harmless particles. Not a single Terran vessel was damaged. Not one. The Empire's fleet was stunned, unable to comprehend what was happening. Ships that had stood for centuries, proud and untouchable, were gone in moments. Vraxtor roared, trying to issue commands, trying to regain control. But it was too late. The human fleet remained calm. No cheers, no celebration. Just quiet, confident action. Admiral Reyes's voice came over the bridge comms, calm and commanding. Galactic Empire, your weapons fail. Your arrogance fails. You face humanity. We do not wish to destroy worlds, but we will if forced. Every officer aboard the Vanguard nodded. Their eyes reflected the remains of the Imperial fleet, silent, broken, and powerless. The Empire, once feared across galaxies, had met something it could not touch, and humanity had just begun. The void of space had grown quiet. The Galactic Empire's armada, once a storm of light and power, now floated like scattered wreckage across the orbit of Jupiter. Ships that had once been symbols of fear were gone, dissolved into harmless particles, their might undone by a fleet far smaller, far younger, and far smarter than the Imperials had ever imagined. Yet, aboard the USS Vanguard, Admiral Elias Reyes and his crew did not cheer. The humans were not reckless. They were patient. They struck only when the time was right. Commander Liu, Reyes said, voice calm yet firm. Initiate Phase 2. Let's finish this. Liu nodded, her fingers dancing over the controls. All ships synchronized for counterstrike. Singularity reactors at full output. Target coordinates locked. Ready on your mark. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew what was coming. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Across the dark expanse, the Imperial fleet tried to regroup. High Admiral Vraxtor roared commands, his claws slamming on control consoles. But the humans had already calculated every movement, every likely strategy, every formation. The Empire was blind. They could not see the invisible threads of humanity's plan. They could not anticipate the sudden, precise strikes that were about to tear through their fleet. "Sir, they're moving," shouted a science officer. "Our sensors cannot track their fleet." They're everywhere at once," another screamed. Vraxtor's roar echoed across the bridge. "No, stop them. Focus fire. Do not allow." But it was too late. The human counterstrike began. From seemingly nowhere, beams of quiet, blue-white energy streaked across the void. They did not explode. They did not burn. They disintegrated matter itself, reducing Imperial warships into harmless, sparkling particles. A dreadnought vanished, leaving nothing behind but a faint shimmer. A battlecruiser disappeared in the blink of an eye, its energy absorbed into the universe as if it had never existed. The Imperial fleet, the most feared armada in the galaxy, began to crumble within minutes. Vraxtor could only watch in disbelief. "Impossible! How are they doing this?" "Admiral," one officer stammered, "they're using quantum singularity reactors. The energy patterns, they erase matter." The High Admiral's claws trembled with rage. "Then we will overwhelm them physically. All ships to ramming positions. Boarding parties deploy now." But the humans anticipated that too. The Vanguard and accompanying vessels did not move like conventional ships. They phased across space, appearing behind the Imperial's largest ships in a blink. Dreadnoughts that had charged forward now found themselves surrounded. No Imperial weapon could track them. No cannon could aim at a target that could vanish and reappear instantly. "Admiral," Liu said quietly, "their flagship is exposed. We can neutralize it completely." Reyes nodded. "Do it, but precise. No unnecessary destruction." A fleet of smaller Terran ships moved with surgical precision, striking the Dominion's wrath at multiple angles. The Imperial flagship did not explode in fire or smoke. Instead, it simply ceased to exist, leaving only faint traces of energy in the void. Vraxtor let out a scream that echoed across the shattered fleet. "No, this cannot be. I am the High Admiral. The Empire is eternal." But the Empire was gone. Other Imperial warships scrambled to respond. Carriers launched fighter squadrons. Missiles fired in desperation, but every attack was met with calm efficiency. A Terran destroyer appeared behind the launch bay of a carrier. A single beam touched the hulls and the carrier vanished. Fighters that had survived decades of battles were suddenly floating in space as harmless fragments. The humans were unstoppable. Reyes stood on the Vanguard's bridge, his eyes scanning every movement. "Commander Liu, scan for remaining threats. I want total confirmation before we declare this over." Liu nodded. "Scanning. All Imperial vessels accounted for. Remaining active units, 2 cruisers and 4 frigates, but their positions are chaotic. Their systems are failing." Reyes smiled faintly. "Good, let's finish this." The final Imperial vessels moved in panic. They attempted to flee, attempting to escape the destruction that had befallen their fleet. But humanity had already predicted this. The Vanguard and accompanying Terran ships phased into strategic positions ahead of the fleeing vessels. The remaining warships encountered walls of energy they could not penetrate. Every path of escape was blocked, every attempt at evasion calculated and countered. One by one, the last ships vanished. The Galactic Empire's armada, once proud, once unstoppable, had been destroyed in less than 3 minutes. Silence filled space. On the human side, there was no celebration. The crew of the Vanguard checked systems, verified each ship, and ensured that no friendly vessels had been damaged. Even the quiet hum of the null field seemed to carry a sense of satisfaction. Reyes finally spoke, calm and measured. "All Imperial vessels neutralized. The fleet is secure. Prepare to broadcast our message." Commander Liu raised an eyebrow. "Sir, are we transmitting to the galaxy?" "To the remnants of the Empire?" Reyes nodded. "Yes, let them know. Let every species understand who humanity is now." The transmission went out across space. "To the Galactic Empire, this is humanity. We do not wish for war. We desire peace. But if you bring war to our worlds, know this: you will not survive it." Across the galaxy, species who had once feared the Empire listened in awe. Stories would spread of a young species that chuckled in the face of annihilation, that could survive impossible attacks, and that could destroy the mightiest armadas with unmatched precision. The galaxy had learned something vital. Humans were not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, the survivors of the Imperial fleet regrouped on distant worlds. Vraxtor's fury could not be contained. "The humans," he growled, his voice shaking, "they are something else. They are the future." He stared into the black void where the fleet had once stood. His pride was shattered, his knowledge incomplete. He did not yet understand humanity, and that would be the Empire's greatest mistake. Back aboard the Vanguard, Admiral Reyes watched the remaining Imperial signals fade. "Commander Liu," he said softly, "make sure every Terran ship is ready. This may be the calm before the next storm." Liu smiled faintly. "Sir, I think the galaxy will need time to catch up." "Humanity has already taken the lead." Reyes nodded. "Good. Let's make sure we stay there." The crew of the United Terran Fleet laughed quietly among themselves, not in mockery, but in satisfaction. They had survived the impossible. They had faced the galaxy's greatest empire and not just survived, but triumphed. Humanity had revealed itself, and it had done so with intelligence, precision, and calm confidence. Because humanity knew the truth that so many civilizations had forgotten. Courage, ingenuity, and unity are more powerful than any weapon. The galaxy would never forget this day, and the Galactic Empire would never forget the species that chuckled while staring into annihilation, and lived. The void of space was quiet again, Where the Galactic Empire's armada had once loomed like a dark cloud over the Sol system, there was now only emptiness. Ships that had been symbols of fear and dominance had vanished. Only faint traces of energy remained, drifting like dust across the stars. The united Terran fleet floated among the remnants, silent and calm. There was no celebration aboard the USS Vanguard. Humanity did not celebrate death or destruction. They had done what was necessary, and that was enough. Admiral Elias Reyes stood at the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He gazed at the stars, thinking of what had just occurred. "Commander Liu," he said, voice steady. "Status report." "All ships accounted for, Admiral," Liu replied. "Systems fully operational. No casualties. The fleet is intact and ready for further orders." Reyes nodded. "Good. Begin transmissions to nearby star systems. We need everyone to know that humanity is not to be underestimated." Across space, the remnants of the Imperial fleet were regrouping. High Admiral Vraxtor, the commander who had once thought himself unstoppable, was in shock. He stared at the space where his armada had been destroyed. His claws clenched and he roared, though there was no one to hear him. "The humans," he muttered, voice trembling. "They are something else. They are beyond our calculations, beyond understanding." The Empire's remaining ships scrambled toward distant colonies. Their pride shattered, their systems failing, their confidence broken. They would not forget what had happened here. Back on the Vanguard, Admiral Reyes addressed his crew. "Today humanity has shown the galaxy what we are capable of," he said. "We do not seek war. We seek peace. But we will not allow anyone to threaten our worlds or our people." A soft murmur of agreement filled the bridge. The crew felt a sense of quiet pride, not arrogance. They had faced annihilation and survived. They had faced the galaxy's most powerful empire and emerged victorious. "Prepare a fleet-wide broadcast," Reyes continued. "I want the message clear." The transmission went out across the stars. "To the Galactic Empire and all civilizations of the galaxy, humanity does not seek war. We desire peace. But if any force brings violence to our worlds, we will respond with strength beyond imagination. Remember this day. Remember what humans are capable of." In distant star systems, the transmission was heard immediately. Planets that had trembled at the mention of the Galactic Empire listened in awe. Reports spread quickly. News of the human victory traveled faster than any fleet could move. A young species on the edge of the galaxy whispered to one another, "Did you hear? Humanity defeated the Empire's fleet." Without even moving in anger, they just survived. They laughed while staring into destruction. Even seasoned officers of other civilizations were stunned. The humans had not only survived, they had triumphed with calm and intelligence. Admiral Reyes walked through the Vanguard, inspecting each station. The crew were efficient, checking systems, performing diagnostics, and preparing for any further emergencies. No one celebrated loudly. No one cheered. Humanity did not need fireworks or noise to mark a victory. Their pride was quiet, rooted in achievement, discipline, and survival. Commander Liu joined him at the observation deck, looking out at the shattered remains of the Imperial fleet. "Sir," she said softly, "do you think they will attack again?" Reyes shook his head. "Not soon. They've learned something today. The galaxy has learned something today, and that is enough for now." He paused, watching faint fragments of Imperial vessels drifting in the void. "They will rebuild, perhaps. They may return one day, but humanity is ready, and we will face whatever comes with intelligence, courage, and unity." The united Terran fleet slowly moved back toward the inner system. Earth, the blue planet at the heart of Sol, awaited them. It had been untouched, safe behind the protective fleet, thanks to advanced planning, innovation, and determination. As they approached, sensors picked up signals from the colonies and satellites orbiting nearby planets. People across the solar system were cheering silently, or perhaps just relieved that the threat was gone. No human had ever faced an empire like this before. Now they had. Reyes took a moment to reflect. Humans were a young species in the galaxy. They had faced many challenges, but nothing like this. And yet they had triumphed. Not with arrogance, not with recklessness, but with precision, ingenuity, and calm determination. The galaxy had underestimated them. And now no one could make that mistake again. Later, aboard the Vanguard, a young officer approached Reyes. "Admiral," he said quietly, The Imperial remnants, will they regroup? Will they try to retaliate? Rhea smiled faintly. Perhaps. But today humanity showed what we are capable of. Today the galaxy learned that humans do not cower. We do not flee. We do not surrender. And when necessary, we laugh at threats we can overcome. The officer nodded, understanding the weight of the words. Humanity's victory was not just military. It was a declaration, a promise to every species. They were not to be underestimated. As the United Terran fleet entered orbit around Earth, Rhea sent a final message across space. Let this be known to all civilizations. Humanity does not seek domination, but we will protect our worlds. We will defend our people, and we will survive. The transmission reached distant systems, including the scattered remnants of the Galactic Empire. Every world, every fleet, every species now knew what humans were capable of, and the story would spread for generations. In the quiet that followed, the Vanguard orbited silently, surrounded by its smaller fleet. Rhea stood in the observation deck, gazing at Earth below. The oceans sparkled, continents stretched wide, and cities glimmered like tiny stars. Humanity had survived the greatest test it had ever faced. They had faced a galactic empire and won, not through arrogance, not through cruelty, not through blind aggression, through courage, intelligence, innovation, and unity. A young officer approached him. Admiral, the galaxy will never forget this day. Rhea smiled. No, they won't. And humanity will be ready for whatever comes next. In the aftermath, humanity was no longer a young species hidden in a quiet corner of the galaxy. They were a rising force, a species that could survive the impossible and chuckle in the face of annihilation. Stories would be told of a fleet that faced the most powerful armada the galaxy had ever known and emerged victorious without a scratch. The Galactic Empire had been humbled, its arrogance shattered. Other civilizations now watched humanity with a mixture of awe and caution. And humanity? They returned to their home star, ready to continue building, exploring, and learning. Because humans understood something the galaxy had long forgotten. True strength is not only in power or weapons. True strength is in courage, ingenuity, and the ability to face the impossible and prevail. And on this day, humanity had proven it to the entire galaxy. The stars themselves seemed to hum with recognition. Humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget their name.